What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more of The. And once again, big thank you to Kim for this album, Soul Mining 1983. And the next track is Giant, which is often an adjective, but of course it can be a noun as well. I don't necessarily have a thought in either direction in advance. It is a single word title, but of course it relates to size, whether it is an adjective or a noun. Now, that can be in some sense independent, but inevitably it is relative, right? Like, something can only be giant if there is something to compare it to, because otherwise, there's no standard or there's no variety or variation. It's just the thing itself. So yes, I suppose inevitably it is about comparison with things that are less massive and more commonly of a smaller size. So yeah, I don't know what to expect, and ultimately, even if that's correct, the idea about size and, comparative nature, I don't know what to think about what that might mean on a personal level or in regard to some narrative. So let's see what I can pick up on a first listen. This is The, and the track is Giant from their 1983 album Soul Mining.
Choking to death in a sun that never sets. I clogged up my mind with perpetual greed and turned all of my friends into enemies. And now the past has returned to haunt me. I'm scared of God and scared
a stunning tune. That's gotta be like 8, 9, 10 minutes. Okay, so over 9, definitely a very long song, but in a very compelling and even hypnotizing way. And I say hypnotizing because the last few minutes, I was really just locked into this rhythm, which it felt like the last 3 or 4 minutes was essentially like this collective choral tribal prayer or mantra, something like that. There's these collective like choral voices doing what I think is like non-lyrical singing. It's, you know, it's verbal, I guess, by basic definition, but it didn't sound like they were singing any like words per se. It was more just like this melodic repetition, this mantra. And again, it felt like this, you know, tribal style prayer, in part because, you know, there's these cycling drums, and there really were a lot of cycling percussive come melodic elements, like, meaning it felt like there was this xylophone rhythm that had both melody and percussion, and then there was like this snare type flourishing, and then maybe like hand clapping, like hand drums even. So yeah, a lot of cycling hypnotic rhythms to the tune. The first half of it, you know, had more lyrics and vocals of a like singular nature, and again, Mr. Johnson has some great vocals because it's a really dynamic vocal performance. There's moments where he's, you know, flourishing up high, almost like falsetto, other moments where he's going deeper, even some moments where he has a bit of venom to his delivery. So yeah, it was a very dynamic vocal performance. And another one where there's a bit of like, if not theatricality, a bit of drama to his vocal performance. So very compelling in that regard. I will say that the line of like, how can other people know me when I don't even know myself? I feel like Carl Jung would have an answer to that question, in the sense of, you know, like the 4 dimensions. There's the parts of you that you and other people know. There's the parts of you that you can't really see because you're in your own skin, in your own brain, but other people can perceive. Then there's the parts of you that you're aware of, which maybe aren't externalized, so other people don't see. And then maybe aspects of your nature, your character, your personality that are not entirely clear to you or others. But yeah, there was the idea of like looking in the mirror and not recognizing yourself. And then he seems to come to this epiphany or realization that like what he's seeing is who he would like to be rather than who maybe he is, which, you know, I think that's a very human thing, is like we, you know, project this image of ourselves or what we'd like to see. I mean, it makes me think of Fight Club, where he's talking about like, oh, people do it all the time. We see ourselves interacting with others in this sort of idealized or more compelling way, and that, you know, doesn't have the imperfections or the awkward moments or the, you know, mistakes that you make when you do interact with people in real life. And so, you know, because in that case he's talking about how like, you know, the narrator, Jack, if you will, is seeing Tyler Durden, who's this kind of idealized, cooler version of himself, and he's saying like, you know, no one has the courage to just kind of run with it the way you do. Spoiler alert, I mean, the movie's been around for what, 25 years, so if you haven't seen it or read the novel, I apologize for giving you a bit of a spoiler there. But yeah, it seems like he's saying something similar here, is like he's seeing this idealized version of himself in the mirror, and he's becoming aware that it's not who he actually is. And again, the idea that sometimes we even like tell ourselves stories, right? Like, you know, something doesn't work out the way you want, and then you kind of come up with this rationale for why it didn't happen the way you wanted, and you like, oh yeah, you know, that's what it was. And even maybe on some level you're aware that, like it's either more complicated than that, or maybe I'm just finding an excuse. But over time, and if you keep telling yourself that, like a mantra, eventually it's like the ability of your brain to distinguish between the story you've been telling yourself and what actually was the case in relation to you and your actions and your interactions. It becomes blurry, and it's almost like, you know, you've drunk that story, you've imbibed it so many times that now you're actually convinced, no, that's really how it was. So yeah, it feels like there's something like that happening here, but I don't know how that relates to Giant, and whether it's like this big articulation of something that is perhaps like more narrow or more detailed in fact relative to perception. So yeah, I feel like I'm really extrapolating a lot here that might have nothing to do with the song. But again, really compelling vocal performance. I love the sonics. I love that it takes its time, meaning it's, it feels like an extended version, but it was just an album track. So yeah, really cool tune. Thank you again to Kim. Big shout out to you. I hope you're doing well. I appreciated hearing from you in relation to the soft cell reaction, and we all hope to see you more here. Let me know what you think of the tune, and I will see you next time. Peace.